can see my screen, okay? All right. So when you can see my screen, just do let me know, okay?
Yep.
You can see the presentation mode, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So we've looked at requirement specification, looking at two major or two most common ways that we specify requirements as business analysts or product owners. So today we'll be looking at requirement modeling, modeling requirements. Yeah. And we'll be looking at two most popular type of requirement modeling types, which is use case diagram and cross-functional flowcharts. Um, but today we'll focus more on UML, excuse me, UML use case diagram. But before we jump into that, we first need to understand why do we model requirement? What is modeling requirements? So requirement modeling on its own has to do with the use of a diagrammatic or a visual way to convey requirements to a specific audience in order to support further analysis, in order to support communication, and also in order to foster understanding between stakeholders. So ensuring that we lay out the business analysis information or we lay out the requirements in multiple formats or in a visually appealing format for stakeholders to be able to understand, to be able to also contribute in the analysis phase of the requirements. We basically model requirements because modeling it allows us to organize our requirements in multiple ways. We don't need to restrict ourselves to communicating requirements through just specifications. Specification is more or less like, writing out what should be the capabilities, the conditions, the qualities, and the needs of the business and stakeholders on on any platform. It could be on a piece of paper, it could be on a Word document, it could be on Jira or Azure DevOps or spreadsheet or PowerPoint slides, whichever tool you want to use to communicate that specification. But by the time we model our requirements, we're no longer just writing the requirement, but we are drawing a diagram that would give stakeholders a clearer picture, either on a high level or detailed level, a clearer picture of what the solution is all about. A good example is, or just to give an analogy for us, you agree with me that if you are going to a place for the first time, assuming you want to go visit, okay, let me not just say visit. Next week is Valentine, right? And you and your wife, or you and your better half, decides to go on a Valentine vacation to Rome to look at the ancient city of Rome, right? And you've not been to Rome before, you don't speak Italian as well, neither does your spouse or your partner speak Italian. You agree with me that for you to be able to have a better understanding of how to navigate through the different cities, monuments, and and beautiful and popular places within Rome, you best understand how to navigate or how to find your way with the use of a map compared to when someone just writes out the list of cities and how to locate them in just a document or as a letter for you to read and follow, right? So modeling requirements allows us to organize our requirements in multiple ways. It also allows us to discover information that is missing, processes that is missing, components of the system that we might have missed out in the time or in the process, in the stage of specifying those requirements. Model requirement as well allows us to also create more room for analysis. It gives stakeholders the opportunity to also, you know, look at other ways to solve the problem analyze the approach, critique the approach, provide input and feedback on the approach. As I mentioned in the beginning, I said there are two popularly most commonly used requirements model. Requirements model in IT. One is the use case model. The other one is the process model. For the process modeling, we'll take a look at that on Saturday, and we'll be narrowing down to cross-functional flowcharts. But for today, we are going to just discuss on use case model, what it is, how do we draw it, what are the components of a use case model. So let's dive right in to use case modeling. But I don't know if you have any question on requirements modeling that I just introduced. Do we have any question?
No question. No question for
All
me.
right, awesome. So, use case modeling. So, let me ask before we even go in, have anyone attempted drawing or have drawn use case model in the past? And what did you draw it for? Anybody? Let me get to know.
I think I drew it on Lucy Chat,
Awesome.
and that was a
Okay.
project for a facility management company.
Ah, interesting. So, you're no
Yeah.
alien to what we're talking about today.
No, I know a little bit about UML use case, a little bit.
Okay, awesome. How about you, Tinji and Oba?
Not really for me.
Okay. Tunji, have you drawn or attempted drawing a use case diagram, and for what projects? Is it a pet project or a real project? Okay, yeah, I remember you'll be at work, so you'll be able to talk. Sorry about that. Just flashed through my mind now. Okay, so let's take a look at UML use case diagram, what it is, what are the various components, what are the rules or guidelines we need to observe when we are drawing UML use case diagrams. So a UML use case diagram is a requirements model that shows the relationship and also the interaction between the actor and the system. So when we want to draw a UML diagram, the, the singular purpose or reason for us to draw it is to communicate to stakeholders how actors, right? Actors are people that will be performing one or more functions on the system. So, how actors would interact with the system, or what kind of relationship would actors have with the system? So, a UML use case diagram has four key components. These key components includes the actor, the use case, the relationship, and the system boundary. So the actor, the use case, the relationship, and the system boundary. Here is a typical structure of a use case diagram, or you can call it the atomic structure of a use case diagram. Every use case diagram must certainly have this structure at the core of its design. You cannot have a use case diagram or a UML use case model without this structure, without having an actor, which is this human looking person, a relationship, which is this line or arrow, as you could call it, a use case, which is this oval shape, and a system boundary, which is this rectangular looking shape. So we have the actor, the use case, the relationship, and the system boundary. These are the four components that make up a UML use case diagram. And as I said, you can't have a use case diagram without either of these four components present. Now, let's take a look at these components individually, one after the other, and know what should we consider when we want to draw them. Now, for the actor, an actor represents a person or an organization or an external system that plays a role in one or more interaction with our system. Let me give an instance here. You can recall that the requirement that we've been using to walk around during the practical session of the classes, that is the IIBA e-voting solution requirements. You can agree with me that there are several actors or stakeholders that we identified that would have interaction with the system. Number one is the eligible voter. Number two is the super admin. Number three is the EMC. Now, these are considered as individual or a person actor, right? Number four is the auditors, PwC or EY. So it's been mentioned there that either EY or PwC are going to audit the system. PwC or EY are considered as an organization, but in a scenario of use case diagram, we consider them to be an actor, right? And then the fourth one is that we made mention that the e-voting system would publish the results of the election to the IIBA e-voting, to the IIBA website. So this is an external system. And when we are drawing the use case diagram, end-to-end use case diagram for the IIBA e-voting solution, we can consider this external system, right? We can consider this external system as an actor to the e-voting solution. So an actor could be a person, it could be an organization, or it could be an external system that plays a role in one or more interactions with our system. Now, when we want to draw an actor, there are some guidelines or rules that we need to, stick to. Number one is that actors must be drawn outside of the system boundary. You don't draw actors inside the system boundary. You draw them outside of the system boundary. Whenever you're drawing your use case diagram, make sure that you don't violate this particular rule, because some people draw use case diagram and then they include actor inside the system boundary. So make sure that your actor is drawn outside of your system boundary. The second rule is that when you are trying to give a name to your actor, ensure that the names that you give are singular and they are business relevant names or business relevant nouns. For instance, customer, admin, students, candidates, merchants. You don't give actors names like customers or admins or students or candidates. No, it has to be singular and it has to be business relevant now. And then you must ensure that each actor has a relationship with at least one use case. At least one use case. So you don't draw a use case diagram where you have actors flying around and maybe one or two or either of them don't have a relationship with a use case. No, that use case diagram is invalidated. You must ensure that every actor has at least one relationship or more with the use cases. And then finally, also understand that actors represent roles and not position. For EMC now, if you say we have EMC1, EMC2, EMC3, you're not going to represent them as separate actors on your use case diagram. Rather, you represent them as a single actor. So, single actor being EMC. You won't have EMC1 as an actor, EMC2 as a separate actor, and EMC3 as a separate actor. So, you're going to have them as a singular unit of actor represented on the use case diagram. That takes us to the use case itself, the use case shape or component of a use case diagram. The use case diagram, which is the oval looking shape, basically represents the functions or functionalities on the system or the actions that an actor would perform on a system. So all of the actors, all of the actions and functions that the actor will perform on the system are the things that we represent on or the things we write or represent as the use case. Okay. Now, some of the rules or guidelines that we need to, follow when we are drawing use cases are: one, we need to make sure that when we are naming our use cases, that the use case begin with a strong verb. Our use cases begin with a strong verb. For instance, create accounts, register course, transfer fund. You make sure that your use case starts with a strong verb and not a noun. You don't start with, you don't say account registration or account setup, or you say fund transfer. Do you understand? Don't say fund transfer. You don't say fund transfer or register course, right? You start with what? A strong verb. Create account, transfer fund, right? So these are part of the rules you need to have at the back of your mind when you are naming your use case. Another rule for use cases is that when you are giving names to your use case, ensure you use domain specific terminologies. So if you are trying to represent a financial solution, try to use domain names like account. So open accounts, right? Deposit fund, withdraw fund, send money, make deposits, right? Send payments, create beneficiary, right? Set up transaction pin. So you use domain specific terminologies in your use cases, and the essence of this is to allow stakeholders, instead of you having to go through the stress of explaining at first what solution or system you're talking about. Your use case can easily communicate your solution or the system, which domain it is specific to. Also, in terms of use cases as well, it is best practice. So this is not a must, but it is best practice that you have your primary use case at the top of every other use cases. So your primary use case is seen as the very first use case or the very first action or function that will be performed on the system. These are the things we consider to be our primary use case. So make sure you place your primary use case at the top of every other use case. So let's say, for instance, in the case of the e-voting solution, the very first thing that will be done there is that the admin will need to upload the data or the details of eligible voters. So that particular action or that particular function will need to be at the top of every other use cases that you're going to represent in your e-voting. Same thing with most e-voting solutions that have to do with let's say financial e-voting, financial solution. The use case, you most likely have to place use cases such as onboarding as the primary use case on top of every other use cases that you're going to represent on your use case diagram. That takes us to the third shapes. The third shapes for a use case diagram, which is relationships. 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 Now, there are basically four types of relationships that we have in use case diagram. We have the association, we have the generalization, we have the extend, and we have the include. Association, generalization, extend, and include. These are the four relationships we have in UML use case diagram. And each of these each of these relationships represents or communicates different things to stakeholders whenever you use them. So you have to be very careful or very conversant or aware of the fact that this particular relationship, you don't use it in a particular scenario. So, because if you use the include relationship where you are supposed to use the extend relationship, you are basically communicating the wrong thing to your stakeholder. So make sure that whichever relationship that you choose to use, for any interaction between actor to use case or actor to actor or use case to use case that you are using the appropriate relationship. Now, let's take a look at these relationships one after the other, starting with association. The association relationship is exclusively used to represent actor to use case relationship or interaction. So if you want to represent the interaction between an actor and a use case, you use the association relationship. You don't use generalization. You don't use extend. Neither do you use include. You only use the association relationship to represent the interaction or the relationship between an actor and a use case. Other requirement modeling tools call association relationship as they refer to it as communication paths. So it's either you call it association or you call it communication paths, right? So whether you're using Visio or Lucidchart or diagrams.net or Miro or whichever diagramming tool or modeling tool you are using, is either it is being called as association or they call it communication paths. Now, some of the rules or some of the things that we need to be aware of for association relationship is that association relationships don't have a head. They don't have arrowheads. They are just a line that represents the interaction or the relationship between an actor and a use case. Also, when you are drawing your association relationship, make sure that you only draw it to represent actor to use case relationship. You don't use your association relationship to represent use case to use case, neither to use it to represent actor to actor relationship. It should strictly be between actor to use case relationship. The next relationship we'll be looking at is generalization. Now, for generalization relationship, we basically use it to represent a scenario where we have a parent and an inheritor relationship. What do I mean by parent and inheritor? A parent actor who has the ability to perform several ability passes down his abilities or his functions to the inheritor, which is the child actor. Now, the child actor can do everything, or the inheritor can do everything that the parent can do, but can also do an additional or perform an additional function to what the parent can perform. Let me give you guys an instance. In the case of our use case UML e-voting solution, you agree with me that one of the requirements that we are giving, excuse me, that one of the requirements that we are giving is that the EMC can cast votes. And for that reason, the EMC can perform everything that an eligible voter can do, right? But you also agree with me that the EMC have additional functions that they perform, which the eligible voter cannot perform. So in that instance, the EMC can be seen as an inheriting actor from the eligible voter, which is the parent actor. So the inheritor can do everything the parents can do, plus additional things which the parents cannot do. So in a situation whereby we have such type of actors, right? We have such actors in a use case diagram. We use a generalization relationship to represent it. Okay? The generalization relationship have arrowheads, and the arrowhead is basically drawn towards the parent actor. So the arrowhead will be pointing to the parent actor to allow stakeholders to know that this particular actor is the parent to this particular inheritor, and everything that this actor can do, everything that this parent actor can do, the inheriting actor can do it and even do more than that. So the arrowhead points towards the parent actor, and the tail of the arrow would be on top of the inheriting actor. Generalization relationships are used to represent actor to actor relationship. You don't use use case to use case or actor to use case relationship for generalization. You only use it for actor to actor relationship. Okay. The next relationship we're taking a look at is the extend relationship. For the extend relationship, we use it to explain a scenario whereby we need to perform a particular use case after we have completed a a parent use case, right? What do I mean? So we call it extend use case. So we have the parent use case and we have the inheriting use case. The inheriting use case is called an extend use case. So in a scenario where we need to perform, whereby we need to perform another use case immediately we complete a use case, we use the extend use case. But the trickiest thing about extend is that for extend, it is not mandatory or we are not mandated to perform that extend use case. Sorry, can you guys hear me? I just had a beep now.
Yes, I can.
All right, cool. So let me explain. Let me take the extend use case again. So for extend relationship, right? We use it to represent use case to use case relationships in a scenario whereby we are not mandated, it is not mandatory for us to perform the inheriting use case after we have completed the parent use case. Please don't mix this up. When I first mentioned parent and inheritance, I was referring to actor, which is generalization. But use case to use case, we use extend relationship for them. And when we use extend relationship, it is when it is not mandatory for us to perform the inheriting use case after we have completed the parent use case. A good example is this. You agree with me that when you make a WhatsApp voice call, right? Most times, most times, whenever you end your call, WhatsApp will ask you to rate your call experience, right? Have you seen that on WhatsApp before? Or probably Zoom?
Yes, I have.
You've seen it, right? Now,
Yeah.
if you decide not to rate your experience, would WhatsApp stop you from using WhatsApp and say, "Oh, until you rate your experience or you give us feedback, we can't allow you to continue doing other things"? Is that possible?
No. No.
That means that rating of experience is optional, right?
Yes, yes.
Now, good. You also agree with me that assuming you did not make any call, maybe you've not made any WhatsApp call for the past 1 month, would WhatsApp give you that pop-up to rate your call experience?
They might not.
They won't because you did not make any call. So they won't
Yes.
ask you to rate your call experience. So it shows
Yes.
that rate your call experience only comes up when you make a call, right? So the make voice call is seen as the parent use case. The rate your call experience is seen as the inheriting use case. But you are not mandated to perform that rate your call experience. It is optional, but it only comes up when you make a call. So in a situation we want to represent the relationship between make voice call and rate a call experience, we use the extend relationship. Is that clear now? So that is a typical example of extend relationship when we where we use extend relationship. It is used for use case to use case relationship. Remember that your use cases represent functions or actions that are being performed on the system. So make voice call is an action that is performed or a function that is performed, while rate call experience is also an action that performed. But the only thing is that rate your call experience comes up only when you make a call or when you are done with a call, and you are not mandated to perform that action. So we use the extend relationship. Some of the rules that we need to observe when drawing extend relationship is that one, the arrowhead for the extend relationship will always point towards the parent's use case. So the arrowhead of the extend relationship should always point towards the parent use case. The extend relationship is strictly used for a use case to use case relationship. We don't use it for use case to actor, neither do we use it for actor to actor relationship. It is strictly for use case to use case relationship. Also, we need to make sure that the extend use case, that is the inheriting use case, is drawn below the parent use case. So the extend or inheriting use case is drawn below the parent use case. So in the scenario of WhatsApp, the make voice call use case will be up, while the rate your call experience use case will be down. So the extend use case will be drawn below the parent use case. The last relationship we'll be looking at is the include relationship. The include relationship works exactly the same, works just almost the same way the extend relationship works. The only difference between these two is that you are mandated to perform that include use case, that inheriting use case. If you don't perform it, you can't continue. Do you understand? So in a situation whereby, imagine if you finish making a WhatsApp voice call, and then WhatsApp asks you to rate your call experience, and there's no button or icon for you to cancel. As in, that rate your call experience is just there. It means if you don't rate call experience, you can't do anything else. You can't move ahead. You can't move forward. So in such scenarios, we use the include relationship. An example of this is what usually happens when we create accounts. When you create accounts on platforms, especially when you use your email address and your password, they will send you your email verification link on your email box, on your email address. And they will tell you that if you don't verify that email, you can't continue, right? So it means that that verify email function or action is an include use case, or you present it with an include relationship with the create account use case. So you have the create account use case, and you link them with an include relationship, and then have the verify email use case. Some of the rules that we need to adopt when we are drawing or representing include relationship is that, one, the arrowheads for include relationship are drawn towards the inheriting use case. Remember that for extend use case, the arrowhead is drawn towards the parent. But for include use case, the arrowheads are drawn towards the inheriting use case. The include relationship is also used to represent use case to use case relationship. We don't use it to represent actor to use case. Neither do we use it to represent actor to actor. It is strictly use case to use case relationships. We also need to make sure that our extend use cases are drawn to the right, not to the bottom now, but to the right of the parent use case. So the parent use case will be to the left, and the the include use case would be to the right. Now, what are the last component is a system boundary. The system boundary is the rectangular shape we have on the use case diagram, and it helps us to represent the system. It stands in the place of the system. When drawing use case diagram, we need to make sure that all our use cases are inside the system boundary. Now, I did not say our actors. I said all our use cases. That is the oval shape. We make sure that they are inside the use case. I mean, inside the system boundary. And that is because any use case that is not inside the system boundary is considered as a function or an action that will not be performed on the system. So when we are drawing our system boundary and when we are drawing our use case diagram, any action or function that we want to be performed on the system, we must draw them inside of the system boundary. Okay? Now, what are the steps we follow when we want to draw a use case diagram? So I highlighted the steps that would help you to draw a use case diagram accurately. First, list out all the actors and also the functions that will be performed on a system. So simply put, what are the major feature or basic features of the system? List out everything, right? By the time you list out all the actions and functions that will be performed on the system, the next thing you have to do is now to draw the system boundary. So you draw the rectangular shape, which is your system boundary. After drawing your system boundary, the next thing will be for you to now draw your actors. So all of the actors that you've identified, you draw them outside of the system boundary. The fourth one will be for you to now draw your use cases, which is those functions that you have listed out. Draw them inside the system boundary. So you list out all the functions and actions, you draw your system boundary, you draw your actors outside of your system boundary, then you draw the use cases inside the system boundary, and finally you begin to link your actor to use case or use case to use case or actor to actor relationships with the various relationships that apply to them. So let us get our hands dirty and draw a use case diagram. But before we proceed, I don't know if you have any question regarding UML use case diagrams. Does anyone have any question or you need clarification on what I have just said regarding UML use case diagram?
None for me. Yeah.
All right. I don't know if Innocent has joined. Last time I checked, he hasn't joined. Okay. Ikechukwu, any question?
No question for me, Genesis. Thanks.
All right. I know Tunji is kind of busy, so I don't want to involve or ask him. So let us draw a UML use case diagram. There are several tools that we can use to draw UML use case diagram. As I mentioned during the course of the class, we have the most popular one, right? Which is Microsoft Visio. You can use Microsoft Visio to draw UML use case diagram. You can use Lucy Chart, just as Ikechukwu mentioned, when I asked if someone had drawn use case diagram before. You can use draw.io, which is now diagrams.net. You can use Miro, Miro, which is a new tool that we have out there. It's actually making the waves a lot in the industry. You can use that to also draw your UML use case diagram. But for the purpose of this class, we'll be using diagrams.net. How many of us have used diagrams.net before or have heard of diagrams.net? Anyone?
I've heard of it before, but I've not
Awesome.
really used it. Yeah.
Okay, so when you type draw.io, okay, they've changed it to drawio.com. Fantastic. It was previously draw.io, then they changed it to diagrams.net. Now they've changed it back to drawio.com. Interesting. So you just type the website, either you type draw.io or drawio.com or diagrams.net, like I typed. It will give you this beautiful looking interface. Then you click on start, right? You can choose to download it so that you can have it on your device, on your laptop, or you use it off the web. So you're going to be using it off the web for the purpose of this class. I won't be going through the route of downloading. So you click on start. When you click on start, um, it will ask you to grant access for storage and other things, which is what we talked about in our functional requirements about authorization, authentication, and what have you, right? So I'll just allow it to load. Yeah. So it will ask me that which location do I want to save my diagrams. I'll just choose let me choose my device, right? So let me create a new diagram. I'll select a blank diagram and click on create. It will ask me where do I want to store it. Let me store it here. Let me select a folder and store it in this folder. Oh, let me not disturb myself. Let me just go and store it in Google Drive. So if you're able to navigate your way, you come to this draw.io. This is the landing page or the home page. Can you guys see what I'm doing?
Yes, I can.
All right, no problem. Cool. So to you see the different um, major shapes that we have there. This is mix is miscellaneous, advanced. You see the different advanced shapes we have. We also have, if you want flow charts, if you want UML, all of those things. Entity relationship diagram, ERD, you want to draw. Well, just to be very fast to help you guys, whenever you want to start, you can just search for the shapes or the diagram you want to do. So I just type use case and click on enter. Now the use case, the UML use case diagrams will come here. Let me close this section. Will come. This is the system boundary. This is the actor. This is the association shape, which is communication paths on draw.io, but on Microsoft Visio, they call it association. Draw.io call it communication paths. This is the include relationship. This is the extend relationship. Is that you can see that the arrows are pointing different ways, right? And then we have the generalization relationship. We have the generalization relationship. And last of all, we have the use case shape itself. So these are the four major components of a use case diagram: the actor, the system boundary, the use case, and the relationships. Now, let's draw the use case diagram for the IBA e-voting solution. But before we start, let's refresh our memory on the IBA e-voting requirements. I know the last time it was Innocent that helped us to read out the requirements. So I don't know if Oba, can you help just read out the requirements to just refresh our mind so that we can know the basic functions. So read out the requirements, then Ikechukwu, you would help outline the basic functions from the requirement that Oba reads out. So is it legible enough, or I should zoom in um, more? Oba, Oba, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah,
Sorry,
is this
I'm
legible
in
enough, or
transit
I
at
should
the
zoom in?
moment. Sorry, I'm in transit at the moment, but
Yeah, what?
I'm on the road.
Okay. All right, no problem there. Ikechukwu, will you be able to read out?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you so much. Go ahead. Is it legible enough, or I should zoom in?
No, it's legible. It's legible.
All right, please go ahead.
Okay. Requirement elicitation result for International Institute of Business uh, Analysis e-voting solution. Number one, there will be three types of users on the solution, which are super admin, who will be in charge of configuring the system, uploading data of eligible voters, and uploading the data of candidates, exporting reports. B, election monitoring committee, EMC, who will be responsible for starting the election, closing the election, publishing election results. C, eligible voters. These are members of the institute who will be responsible for casting votes on the e-voting solution. 2, super admin should be able to generate and send login credentials membership ID, and one-time password to eligible voters. 3. Eligible voters should be able to log in to the e-voting with their membership ID and password. 4. For a first-time login, the eligible voter will be required to change the password. Upon successful password change, the eligible voter should be required to log in with a new password and membership ID. To reset the password, the eligible voter will need to provide current password, new password, and confirm the new password. Upon resetting the password, the eligible voter will be required to log in with the new password and membership ID. 5. All users should be able to log out, sorry. 6. The system should log out eligible voters who are not active on the system after 5 minutes of inactivity. Eligible voters should be able to view the various vacant positions. Eligible voters should be able to view the manifesto/profile of all candidates. There are 3 positions that the candidates will be vying for: President, Vice President, and Secretary. An eligible voter cannot select more than one candidate for each position. The system must not accept more than 3 vote selection from the eligible voter. Eligible voters should be able to submit their vote. Genesis, is there more? Okay, thanks. Eligible voters should receive a vote acknowledgement receipt via mail when they successfully submit a vote. An eligible voter cannot vote more than once. Eligible voters should be able to rate their experience after casting their vote. The administrator should be able to upload the candidate's information, manifesto/profile, on the system before the election starts. The administrator should be able to upload a list of eligible voters before the start of the election. There should be a countdown timer showing the number of days, hours, minutes left to the close of the election. The Election Monitoring Committee (EMC) should be able to open and close the election. The EMC should be able to download the results of the election. The EMC should be able to vote, hence they can perform all activities that an eligible voter can perform. Votes cast must be stored securely on the e-voting database. The e-voting system should be subject to auditing by our auditing partners, EY/PwC. The auditing will occur before and after the election process. The first audit will happen before the start of the election, and the purpose of this is to verify that no voting data has been captured on the IIBA e-voting database prior to the election. The second audit will happen after the election has ended, and the purpose will be to ensure that all vote results are credible. We shall be publishing the election results to our website after the close of the election activity. The publishing will be automatic and done immediately after the EMC closes the election. Hence, we'll be integrating the IIBA website into the IIBA e-voting solution.
All right. Thank you so much, Ikechuku, for that. Thank you so much for assisting. So let's
Thanks.
just go ahead. I'll go ahead to list out the major functions. I would omit the part of the auditing and also publishing. Publishing the results on the publishing the results on the IIBA website. So I'll pick up my text um, icon. So these are just different menus that you can use to save. You can save your model as a PNG or JPEG, which is image, or SVG, if you want to send it for people to send it to your designers, or as PDF if you want to share it with stakeholders for them to see, or HTML or UXL or whatever format you wish. If you want to get it as a link, you can publish the link for everyone who wants to collaborate with you on your drawing to have access to it. So just go ahead and pick up this text tool. so that it can allow me to list out my functions. So the functions will be upload eligible voter detail, sorry, give me a minute. Let me just format this very well. Format this very well. Here's my bullets. Okay, awesome. So upload eligible voter detail, upload candidate profiles, login, reset password, reset password. Next one will be view candidate profile, view vacant positions. Okay. Next one will be cast votes. Next one will be rate voting experience. Next one will be receive voting, acknowledgement receipts. Next one will be to open election, close election, publish election results. I know these things are tiny, right? Let me make it more legible for you guys. Is it better now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, better. So these are the 11 key functions on that e-voting solution. Let's take a look at them one after the other. This one seems to be 18, 16. Why is all of them having different? Everything should have 18, please. Okay, so let's draw. First thing is to draw your system boundary. Okay, so you have our system boundary here. The next thing will be to draw our actors. So there are three actors that are being there. Wait, sorry, when you draw a system boundary, you need to title it. So say IBA e-voting solution. So stakeholders know that this use case diagram is for the IIBA e-voting solution. So let's draw our actors. We'll just pick this actor shape, drag it, or you can just click on it, and we call this eligible voter. Sorry, let's call this our super admin. Then Control D to duplicate. Basically, the major shortcuts we have on Microsoft Word or Office. We also have them here. We have eligible voter, and then the last actor is the EMC. Okay, let's have this here as the EMC. Let me extend this shape lower. Now, so we've drawn our system boundary, listed out the functions, drawn our actors outside of the system boundary. The next thing we are now going to do is to start stacking, or should I say drawing our use cases. So I'll pick this use case shape. I'll put it here. Remember when I said about placing your primary use case at the top of every other one? So I'll make this my primary use case and call it upload eligible voter details. I'll basically do Control D to duplicate. Next one will be upload candidate profile. Oh, I say candidates. Candidate profile. Next one will be, oh, please. Next one, what's the problem? Come on. Telling me to bookmark. I'm not bookmarking. Yeah, the next one will be to log in. Then the next will be to reset password. You guys can see what I'm doing. Is it tiny or is it clear enough? Let me know. Next one will be view. Can you guys hear me? Vacant
Yes,
position.
yes, we can.
All right, awesome. Let me put this here. Next one will be to view candidate profile. Next one would be to cast votes. Cast votes. Next one will be to rate voting experience. Voting experience. The next one would be to um, next one will be to receive acknowledgement receipts. Receive acknowledgement receipts. Then we have, let me do Control D. We have logouts, and then we have open election. We have close election, and then we have publish election results. Yeah, so I've stacked all of our use cases. It is now time for me to link them or represent them with relationships. You remember from the rules or from the class that when it comes to actor to use case relationship, we only use association relationships, right? And here they call it communication paths. So for uploading eligible voter details, this should be done by the admin, by the super admin from the requirement that we were giving. So I'll link this. I'll basically do Control D to duplicate. Uploading candidate profile. This is done by super admin as well. I also link this. For logging in, they never mentioned that admin should be able to log in. So I'll start it with the eligible voter being able to log in. Okay. Now you can see that any wherever the association relationship points to shows that this is a person interacting with that particular functionality or that performing that particular action on the system. Now you agree with me that the eligible voter resets password, but resetting of this password only comes up when the eligible voter has logged in, especially when they're logging for the first time. That means the reset password only comes up after logging in for the first time or when they log in for the first time. Okay. Or to make things a lot more easier and more straightforward, I can say, I can call this first time login. first time login. Let me duplicate this and call this subsequent. Okay, now remember there's a rule that I mentioned. So I'll say login first time. Remember that your use cases should start with a strong verb and not with a noun. Then this one was login subsequently. All right. So for this, we'll have an include use case, which is this reset password. Because when you log in first time, you must certainly, but let me just put this instead of login subsequently, let me leave it as login. When you log in first time, you must certainly what? Reset your password. So I'll get my include relationship and draw it to show the interaction between these two use cases. Okay. Then the normal login, I'll get it back on track. Then I'll Control D again to duplicate. Sorry, let me bring this guy down so that it's be a lot more easier and look much neater. Okay. I think I messed up this. Hold on. Yeah. Okay. So I have this here. Brilliant. Then my Control D, this comes here. Get my Control D again. Wow, this is not moving well. Yeah, brilliant. Then cast votes, which is performed by eligible voter. So I have my rate voting experience, which is performed by eligible voter. Receive acknowledgements, receipts, which is performed by the eligible voter as well. Then we have the logouts. And bring this guy here. Control D. Let me bring this guy down here. Okay, let me Control D this particular one. Pull it down. And also bring it here. So opening of election is done by the EMC. Same with closing of election. Why is this not extending? And then publishing election results. Now, if you recall, rating call experience is a function that is performed, but it's not performed directly. It's an indirect action that needs to be performed. When the election has ended, that is sorry, when you've casted your vote, that is when you'll be required to rate your experience. So it's not going to be a direct relationship with the eligible voter. Rather, it will be an indirect relationship, but we're going to use the extend use case. We're going to use the extend use case. Let me bring this a bit lower. So we're going to use the extend use case to show that this rating of call of your voting experience only comes up when the eligible voter has cast when they've casted their votes or when they've submitted their votes. You also agree with me that the EMC can do everything that the eligible voter has done, and because of that, there's a relationship between EMC and eligible voter, and that will be a generalization relationship. So have this here, and I have this pointing here. Okay, so this is our e-voting solution use case diagram or use case model. As what did I do? As simple and as easy as it is, this is basically a UML use case diagram. I don't know if you have any question or any clarification from the drawing, from the diagram rather. Anyone?
No question. No question for me.
Is it
Understood.
clear? So if I ask you to draw a UML use case diagram of any solution, you can draw it for me.
Mm, yes, I can try.
Sorry, I don't get you.
I said I can try. I can try.
Oh, Ikechukwu, I recall you mentioned
Yes.
that you've drawn one before, right?
Yes, it was just a project between myself and three others.
Okay, was it like this?
Yeah, something like this, where we had the UML diagram and
Okay,
the use case document and everything.
okay, awesome. So you also
Um,
remember? Okay, Oba, I think you want to say
now I
something.
wanted to ask about the website integration. Will it be represented in this use case diagram?
Yeah, if you want to do like a full blown end to end, so if I want to do that website part, see what I'm going to do. Remember that um, external systems are also considered as an actor in your UML use case diagram, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll have this here, which is the actor, and I'll call it IBA websites. But there's a way we represent external systems. We use this. So he's an actor, but we show that this is a system actor, not just a human actor or organizational actor. So we use this double greater than and double less than. Do you understand? So the
Yeah.
action that this will only be doing here is fetch election results. Do you understand? Because we'll be publishing the results to this particular system. So it will be fetching the results from the IIBA voting solution. Do you follow me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me use our association to represent it. So if it is a system that is interacting with us, for instance, if this is a payment processor, a good example is Amazon. We are drawing use case for Amazon and want to represent that people can pay with Apple Pay. The title of this will be Apple Pay, but you have this double greater than and double less than enclosing the title. And what will Apple Pay be doing on this thing? It will be process payments. Do you understand? If it is
Yeah.
if here is Apple Pay, the use case here will be process payments. Process payments. If it is Apple Pay or PayPal or Google Pay or Paystack or InterSwitch or Stripe, whichever one it was, process payment. Because that's what we'll be doing for the system to process payments. So let me just take it back to fetch election results. Any other question or clarification? If you also take note of the extend and the include, extend points to the parent use case. So this is the parent use case, this is the inheriting use case. All right. Now, the extend relationship points to it. When we have an extend relationship, this inheriting use case, we call it extend use case, no longer inheriting use case. We call it extend use case. We call it extend use case, no longer inheriting use case. Same thing with this parents use case and inheriting use case that we use for include relationship. When it becomes an include relationship, we call it an include use case. Even though it is the inheriting use case, we call it an include use case. Let me draw this to be on the line. Yeah, we call it an include use case. But for an actor, this is the parent actor. This is the inheriting actor. Okay? The parent actor and then the inheriting actor. So that is it, guys. Any other question?
So if I'm to use this use case diagram in any project,
Yeah.
at what point will I need it? Is it during to do my analysis during after elicitation, or does it come along with when I'm preparing my requirement document?
Yeah, it is after elicitation when you are preparing your document. So you include your use case diagram in your FRD, your functional requirement document. Okay. You can also include it in your BRD. Do you understand? It is not an overkill to be included in your BRD, but the best place to have it is your FRD. That's your functional requirements document.
Okay. So
Yeah.
for agile project, we don't need to use this at all.
We need to do, if in agile is used for delivery, right? Now, if the team don't want user story, then they find it difficult doing agile. Do you understand? If it's agile, you need to write your user story. But as a BA, for whichever project you are doing, you are still expected to produce your documentations, which is BRD and FRD. Then you now start writing user stories for individual, if it is sprint or Kanban or whatever they're doing. You start writing user stories for individual um, feature or requirements that the team want to work on a specific sprint. But you still need to write down, document your FRD and your BRDs. They are important for you as a BA. So you don't think you would probably shy away from writing it if it is agile. Of course, you need to do it. And again, it depends on the phase, the stage of the project when you join them. If it's a new project, you most likely, like if it's a project that you are the one starting it, you have to produce your FRD and BRDs. But sometimes you might meet the project when it has actually started and it's just user stories and flow diagrams that you'll be drawing.
Thank you. Yeah,
You're welcome.
now I get it.
All right. In the absence of any further question, I think that will bring us to the end of the class. Now, for assignment, let me keep the recording on and then so I can see the assignment. For the assignment, I want you to um, I want you guys to draw a use case model for WhatsApp. Draw a use case model for WhatsApp and submit by Friday. And then additionally, I want you guys to write user stories for the reset password feature on the e-voting solution. Also um, for viewing candidates profile and for viewing vacant position. So write draw use case diagram for WhatsApp. Do you understand? Whichever features or functionality you want to include, you can go ahead to include it. If you want to include 15 features, 15 functions or 10 functions or 20 or 30, include as much. But draw the use case diagram for WhatsApp. And then for the user stories, write 3 user stories. One for resetting password, second one for viewing candidate profile, and the third one for viewing vacant position. For the user stories, write it on either a spreadsheet, sorry, either on a PowerPoint slide or a Word document and share with me. While for the use case diagram, draw it with diagrams.net, that is draw.io, download it as PDF and share with me. Okay, so I'll need us to see how to do that by Friday so that on Saturday in the morning we can discuss that in the class. Okay, we'll discuss the assignment that you submitted before we start the class on Saturday. All right, guys, I think that brings us to the end of the class today. Thank you so much for joining and do enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.